Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Season 3 Invitational in Atlanta, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Eric Hawkins. How you doing, sir?
Doing great,
You had a pretty good run at the Invitational earlier this year.
Yeah?
But you're playing something real nice today. And in Standard, it's kind of like 2-format deck, as everyone's calling it, or maybe a 3-format deck. But you have something outside the line, so to speak, and a deck that we sort of saw back a couple Standards ago.
Yeah, so a couple Standards ago, there was the Brood Monitor, Eldrazi Displacer, Zulaport Cutthroat deck. I was online scouring to look for a deck that wasn't Black-Green Delirium or Blue-White Flash, and found this, and been kind of tinkering with it ever since.
Right, and we saw, these Rites decks, Crypto with Rite themed decks back when Rally of the Ancestors was a thing. So you're kind of doing the same thing here. You got a bunch of value creatures, but you have a bunch of different packages too, because not only do you have Crypto with Rite, but you're playing little Eldritch Evolution, a modern standout here in Standard.
Yeah, Eldritch Evolution is a sweet card that allows your 4 of cards, so like things like Catacomb Sifter and stuff like that, just to become your silver bullets, which is like really, really cool. It also allows you to tutor for your combo and not have to play like a bunch of Brood Monitors.
Sure, you don't want to be drawing a bunch of Brood Monitors.
Yeah, I don't want to like 2 or 3 stuck in my hand, not being able to cast them, all that stuff.
All right, so the core combo, of course, when you have Crypto with Light and all this fast mana, is you get to assemble Eldrazi Displacer along with a bunch of value creatures, ultimately ending in the combination of Brood Monitor, Zulaport Cutthroat.
Yeah, and then the Displacer.
Sure.
Yep, I mean, that's just kind of your goal. You just like make a bunch of permanents, eventually find either Eldritch Evolution or just like scry into your combo with Catacomb Sifter, and then, and like you said, just like get into the Brood Monitor plus Catacomb Sifter and Eldrazi Displacer lets you tutor your deck for Zulaport Cutthroat.
Right, and a lot of the issues with kind of the Crypto with Light decks of the past was they didn't really have multiple angles of attack. Can this deck play a functional game without, the combo?
Oh yeah, so like the silver bullets in this deck are like Linvala the Preserver, Voldaren Pariah, and Nauseous Gearhulk. So like, if you can just like get those creatures into play and then find a Displacer, like you can do some pretty insane things.
All right, so as long as you have Displacer, basically, your deck is going to create a ton of value. You mentioned your kind of high-end creatures there, but you also have some nice stuff in the middle here.
Oh yeah.
Thought-Knot Seer, Cloud Blazer. I expect to see this with Panharmonicon. You don't have it in your deck, but still very good with Displacer. And this is another one, Restoration Gearsmith.
Yeah. So
limited All-Star.
Yeah. So the
like
deck's
all of this deck, basically.
Yeah, basically. So like basically this deck started off as a Brood Monitor combo, like I said, and then it didn't have enough game. Like a lot of the creatures were just there to be creatures, and so what I wanted to change was I wanted value out of my cards. And so I changed to like the Cloud Blazer, the Gearsmith, the Linvala, the Nauseous Gearhulk, and that allowed me to do a lot more. And I found those in the Panharmonicon decks. But then what I found about the Panharmonicon decks was I didn't really like Panharmonicon. So I cut that from the deck and then kind of like mushed those 2 decks together, and this is it's been doing pretty well for me.
All right, we can't forget to mention Reflector Mage running around here just like back in the day, and of course Duskwatch Recruiter, a card that dominated Standard last season, kind of falling off now. Yeah,
Duskwatch Recruiter, not great unless you have like Crypto with Rites or just like a way to make a bunch of extra mana. Also, you were kind of cheating it before when you collected Company into it, so like your mana wasn't like really tied up anywhere. In this deck, he's not like an all-star, but he's definitely part of the supporting cast, and just like helps you in the times where you don't have really anything going on.
All right, the one card that sticks out to me is this Eyeless Watcher. What's going on here?
Eyeless Watcher is a card that conveniently costs 4 mana and makes 2 guys. So mostly it's in there for Eldritch Evolution. But if you got a very good deck that's coming up against you that's like attacking you on the ground, you can get very wide with Eyeless Watcher. So you can like declare blocks and then blink it and then get 2 more guys, and then hopefully you have like a Sifter or a Zulaport to like keep going and just getting a bunch of triggers and going through your deck. But if you just have Displacer and Eyeless Watcher, you can block for days.
Right, sort of like your own Ishkana, but you don't really have the ways to enable Delirium, so you're just kind of making your own tokens.
Yeah, that is like one of the unfortunate things about this deck. Is I really wanted to put Ishkana in it, but you can't really get the Delirium from the deck.
Sure. All right, so what are we aiming to beat with this deck, and what are you kind of weak against in this format?
Absolutely trying to beat Green-Black Delirium. You, like I said, you get really wide. They have a really hard time punching through damage. The damage that they punch through isn't super relevant. It is very hard to mess this deck up with an Emrakul. So like that's really nice. But you are definitely weak to like the blue-white decks. The good draws from blue-white will beat you, but you're not like cold to them either.
Sure.
So, and obviously Eldritch Evolution's not great against Spellcaller.
Right. Don't want that to be happening.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things we're seeing in this format are the decks that are trying to aim to beat the Delirium decks are naturally just soft to the white-blue deck anyway.
Yeah.
So you kind of can't beat both of those decks simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the best cards against blue-white is Grasp of Darkness, and like if you're playing Grasp of Darkness, you're like not great against the black-green Delirium deck.
Okay. So take us to the sideboard. You got a pretty different deck when you move into the sideboard for Spell Queller. Of course, accompanying with Reflector Mage, you're making your own blue-white deck here.
Yeah. So at the original time I played this deck, it was weak against the Aetherworks Marvel decks. And the Aetherworks Marvel decks are weak to Spell Queller. So like with people moving from moving to Aetherworks to beat the green-black decks, I just had to pick up the best way to beat them. So.
Right. Combination that with your full play set of Thought-Knot Seers from the board.
Yep.
So you kind of have your own Disruption and kind of Eldrazi package.
Exactly.
Other cards in here, I noticed you have multiple Painful Truths and Natural State.
Yeah, Natural State is just like a concession to the fact that we're a little weak to Smuggler's Copter in the early game. So I just like wanted that, plus Stasis Snare being like a removal spell. Wanted a way to kill that so I can get my guys back. Painful Truths is great against like green-black Delirium or just other control decks. If they're like trying to attrition you out and you get to like reload with Painful Truths, your creatures are also usually 2-for-1s. So you can just like out-card them and then end up beating them that way.
Sure.
Painful Truths just helps with that.
And then, of course, following up, you got an extra Pariah and an extra Noxious Gearhulk in the board.
Yep.
Just more removal.
Yep, and then the Pariah is like one of your best cards against the blue-white deck. So like I just wanted another copy. It's hard to turn on sometimes if they're gonna like stop you with Quellers and stuff. So I didn't want to go like full 4. But if you can get one into play and flip it, like usually those are the games you win against blue-white.
Okay, so how you liking the deck and what would you change after a couple of games here?
After playing it today, one of the things I would definitely change is Linvala should be Drowner of Hope. Just like more synergy with Eyeless Watcher and Catacomb Sifter, Eldrazi Displacer. And then other than that, I mean, I love the deck. I think it's very good. I think it's, if I play once against a bunch of green-black, I should do very well. If you see me against a bunch of blue-whites, I might not be so happy.
All right, well, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard. Hopefully you run into more Delirium and we get to see this deck do some sweet things on camera.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
All right, for Eric Hawkins, I'm Nick Miller here in the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all week long for the action here in Atlanta.